Thank you. Can I have someone to move us back into our meeting? Thank you, Councillor Thomas, and seconded by Councillor Whitechurch. All in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. Now we'll move on to item number 10, the Director of Engineering Services report. Thank you, Steve.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. 10.1 is just the works report for the month of July, which is pretty much self-explanatory, just what we've been up to.
Thank you. There's a recommendation here moved by Councillor Longmire, seconded by Councillor Wales. Question, Councillor Wales.
Mr. Director, thank you, Mr. Mayor. In relation to grading Whitehead Street, does that have a set time when they do the deal or not? So I know you get a bit buggy there. When I go there, you don't have the dog for run.
No, it's an issue we're working on. At the moment, we tend to be reactive to customer complaints, and we want to get to a stage where we have a set program that they follow. I mean, there'll still be some reactive, obviously, because there'll be emergencies come up from time to time. But unfortunately, what's been past practice, and we still do it to a certain extent, is that we grade a road here and then somebody rings up on the other side of the shore and says they want, so we float across there, we do that, and then we come back instead of just systematically working our way through. And then
went away of it.
Yeah, and it's going to get back to the service level that councillors want, or the community want in the end, whether there's two things. It's what we can afford to do, and then we might say if we can do that, we can only grade every road once. But if you, for me, school bus runs, for instance, got a lot higher priority than a normal road because you've got children in buses and that type of thing. So to me, that should be graded 2, maybe 3 times a year, depending on the amount of traffic. So we just need to set those levels and then stick to it. And then if people know that their road's coming up to be graded, that what we started to do, and it's never really worked, is get it on the website, onto our website, so that people know that we're going to be in this area in the next month or so, and we're going to grade, providing the weather's with us as well. And that's another thing that makes it very difficult at time with water. Once we get north of here, it becomes difficult. So in answer to your question, we probably do a bit more reactive than we should at the moment, but we're trying to get to a systematic approach.
Yeah, no problem. I just wonder what the format was.
Yeah.
Thank you, Councillor Longmire.
If I may, Mr. Mayor, in regard to dot points 1, 2 and 5 on the early part of the summary of the activity, we all know I live in the Hopefield area on a bitumen road. However, it says here about work that's been done in the Hopefield area. Well, I did a little tour on Sunday and I had a look at Lilydale Road, Glenara Road, Peggins Road, Felton Road, Lovis's Road and Hunters Road. And there's a lot of work out there to be done, and I haven't seen the activity on Mr. Carmichael. So in that regard, I'm asking, is there any future opportunity for those roads to be done? Given, as you rightly say, the weather is up against it, but I think if there's a definite forward going in an ambition to try and do some of those roads, it'd be well received by the people out there. And the other one is, it's noted about the spike in the customer requests because of the movement of large machinery. Well, what's happening in the rural sector, and we'd have to say most of our area is under crop. So there's a lot of movement of large machinery. And in that regard, the setting of what they call the tram track opportunity for crop spraying, fertiliser and all the rest of it's on 3 metres on the wheel set, at least 3 metres plus something. And the other one is that some of these things have happened with roads being damaged. Farmers have had to put bigger wheels and more wheels to get their crop in because of the transversing over the paddocks because they're so wet. But what I'm worried about is going forward, where in dot point number 5, table drain maintenance in problem areas to avoid the Sloan's froglet habitat. This is interesting because as I'm describing these rural roads that are unsealed, if we're not able to clean the gravel out of the table drain to form a crown and make a road that's transversable for as long a period as can happen, some of these roads, as we call them, we'll be talking about their laneways. And I mean that because at the end of the day, I think 2 things. One, we'd see some spraying on the side of the roads on the main feature roads with, say, a knockdown herbicide, which if it's done early enough, it actually gives the opportunity to regather the gravel. This has got something along the lines of out in the rural areas with these current roads that I talk about, where we need to do something, plan ahead where we can spray it so that you can get the gravel back out of the table drains and form a table drain. And so your opportunity, if it's done properly, will be in a longer period of time. You'll have to come back. So those are the things that I think are important for the engineering sector to look at. Not that I'm a specialist in engineering, but just practical experience and watching it over a long time.
Yeah, thank you, councillor Moore. Any further questions there, councillors? If not, I'll put it. All in favour?
Aye.
Aye.
Carried.
All right, 10.2 was a report on the Mulwala All Abilities Playground, Little Park redevelopment. Basically, there's about 3 or 4 of us about to go at this report, so it's had bits and pieces added into it, but it's to give us an idea. We have a contractor who's working there at the moment. We have a budget. We did agree when council resolved back in whenever it was that I got there that we did that resolution in
January.
that we borrow or we fund an additional 450 odd thousand or whatever that amount of money to go to bring this project to finalisation. So this is how we've pulled it all together. And at the moment, we have a budget of 2.2 million for this particular project, which will allow the contract to be finished, and a whole series of contingency items are there that could or could not be done depending on how we go. So,
Thank you.
and the other thing I think we need to be aware of, also listed there, the people that have offered to donate money. So we're just in the process of sending out invoices to those people as well to make sure all that is shored up. I think I did just make mention in there, there's one in here that just says local donations of $35,000, and I've seen nothing else, so it just worries me a little bit when I see that written there. But somebody may be able to, and we've got a meeting with the committee tomorrow actually, which will be good. So yeah, so this one's more as background and reaffirm, but we're just wanting council to say that that's their budget, that's the scope of the work that we're doing at the moment. We've also got that unknown of the stage 3 of the project, which was going to be a little inlet. It's now gone to a beach type arrangement, which is still being advertised, I think. No, it's finished. So we should have a decision on that sometime fairly soon. So did we get any objections or anything on that, or any government departments?
Still waiting on some government.
Yeah, so we're still waiting on government departments to come back on that. I am a little bit concerned with that beach thing of trying to keep the sand there, to be quite honest. I just don't know how, with the wave action, how we're going to keep the sand there. It's very easy to put it there, but with that gets a pounding, that particular, especially when, there's a lot of waves and it's very rough area of Lake Mulwala. So.
Can I get a move for that recommendation? Moved by councillor Meagle and seconded by councillor Wales. Questions or comments, councillors? Councillor Thomas.
Thank you for the opportunity to have commentary in and around the All Abilities Playground at Mulwala. I really feel that on-site visit tomorrow will speak louder than any words that I can comment on here today. You know, when you're visiting that site tomorrow, you will absolutely see the importance of completing the task as a whole because of this significant project that's occurring. But we all know that. You know, we have noted in the report there has been 35 variations, but those 35 variations have occurred because you're actually dealing with a really high caliber contractor, and he's had to work in and around a design that's been presented to him, and that will become evident tomorrow when you visit. The other port of call today is you've noticed the 5 variations, you know, that have been requested and may not be approved at this stage. But I mean, if we were to delve into those, and I know these are questions again for our Director Carmichael without notice, but certainly if you could have some, maybe some answers for tomorrow. And I will disclose that I did actually meet on site last night with the Managing Director of Enviroculture, and I did catch up with some committee members yesterday because I had their concerns about what was being presented on our business paper today, but I was able to forward you those concerns in an email this morning, so hopefully you can address those with the committee tomorrow. And I think when you're really meeting with this passionate committee, they will have questions for you. But I do feel there's been lots of pages in a book, and I think we all need to consolidate onto one page what's going on. So to move forward, I absolutely endorse the recommendation that is in our business papers. But once again, I'd just like to explore those 5 variations and look at those as individuals rather than as a whole. When you look at the refurbishment of the 2 shelters, you've got to remember that both those shelters were actually put there by some really strong community groups, one being Rotary and one being Lions, and in realisation that they have contributed to the project. As you can see at the beginning of the report, I think $10,000 and $15,000 respectively. But, maybe they could be removed and you could actually reapproach those particular organisations, and they might be quite willing to, to provide some paint or some lacquer or whatever it might need to actually make those shelters look consistent with the delivery of the project. I was a bit unsure about the bollards. I noticed that the bollards had already been delivered with a figure of $20,000, and then this additional bollards. And I'm not really sure what a bollard's purpose is in life. If you could just tell me that, would be great. What does a bollard do?
Stop people going from one side of something to the other side normally. It's,
So,
they're usually only, well, the ones we've been using are only the short. You can get up to that height.
okay. So the little plinths that are
Down
in,
at-
oh, sorry.
Down at, what's the name of the,
Bridges, the boat.
Owen Bridges, all that posts along the front, if you want to call them
Is that
posts.
what you call
They're
it?
bollards.
Yeah, okay. So is it a responsibility of council to put those in, or would it be RMS to put those in Melbourne Street?
If it was in the middle of the road, it would be RMS's. Once you get 3.5 metres from the centre line of the road, everything's our responsibility.
That's a technical hitch, that's what we're dealing
Make the
with.
road wider.
Yeah,
Once you
okay.
get out to that far, they're not even interested.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so it's our responsibility.
And the little plinths, I suppose that's what I'm calling them, where you park, you raise your car in. What are they, like bumper, stop your wheels going forward? What are they?
They're just
Something.
yeah, there's different names.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, no, I just couldn't quite get in my head what the bollards and what their purpose were for this particular project. So maybe we could look at that. Certainly when you visit tomorrow, you'll strongly see the importance of extending the footpath. You will see that tomorrow on site. I do have a further recommendation, if it could be added to the current points 1 and 2. I would like to see a third one there. That council to provide an update report to the September meeting in reflection of their site visit and meeting with the contractor, project manager and passionate committee, whom requires some clarification in regards to the costings and allocation of the capital funds. If that could happen, I think that would be brilliant, just to give us transparency. And my last point is, I'd absolutely like to see that council strongly explore the options to fund, especially 1 and 2, whether it's from those internal funds or other grants. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Thomas. Councillor Whitchurch.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to add to and agree with Councillor Thomas as far as finish a project, but I just remember back to when we sat in this chamber and we decided on doing what we're going to do with the all abilities. And I think Councillor Kennedy put the nail in the coffin when he said that staging projects just don't work. They cost more money, because at that point we're only going to go for stage 1. And the motion I think that Councillor Longley and Councillor Thomas moved was to go with the funding and do stage 2. So it always was going to have a dead end. It was going to be dead ended at stage 1, which would have been detrimental, would have looked completely silly. At least finishing at stage 2, we've got to where it is, and now it needs basically a footpath as an extension. Councillor Law's been very big on, and Councillor Meagle, about the funding and going over budget with our projects and not wanting to spend more and more and more because the money's not there. I agree that yes, it needs to be done, but I don't think we can apply any more funds to the project outside what we've got in the contingency, which is running very tight, I believe, Director Carmichael. Look, as Councillor Thomas said, at some way through our budgeting through the next year or whatever might be, and other grants to get that footpathing done. But it's going to be a great project, and to go from where it was going to be at stage 1 to end up with a over $2 million project, which includes community money, I think, we're going to have to leave it at that.
Thank you, Councillor Whitchurch. Councillor Longley?
Just going to make that's actually, we've opted to do the 3 stages of the project. So the third stage is the one that's just have the D8, which is the
Yeah, sorry.
shore entrance. So,
Yeah.
so that, yeah, that's fine. Yeah, one of the reasons we want, and like you said, we have been copying a bit over recent times of running over on budgets. So the idea is just to try. I'm hopeful at the end of the day there's enough money there for us to actually do the whole thing and the paths. But I don't want to commit to it at the moment until we make sure that we know exactly what all our costs are.
But if you can have that conversation tomorrow,
Yeah, that's why we're
Yeah.
meeting with the committee
yeah,
tomorrow.
that would be absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So, oh, sorry.
You're all right.
So, oh, sorry, I'm cutting.
Yeah, you're right. No, it's just a comment on the importance of service clubs. You've got 2 service clubs here contributing $25,000 to this project. Service clubs do a remarkable job here in Cora as well and Mulwala, and I think they're the unsung heroes in a lot of council projects that they work towards. And I think we ought to be congratulating our service clubs for their contribution to our communities.
Thank you, councillor Longley. Thank you. Any further comments? Councillor Thomas?
If there was opportunity to give a further report to us at the end of the meeting.
I'm happy for that to go in there.
I'm just wondering whether instead of, the way I see this recommendation is to basically reaffirm our position as it was in council. Council was very excited. Going back to the start of this project, it was only stage 1. We all jumped aboard to support Mulwala, and we're all really excited the outcomes and what it's going to do. It's very significant, this playground area, and it's going to be fantastic for tourism. So, and that's why council went the extra length and borrowed more money to continue on and get to that stage 3 finish. I can see that we need to draw a line in the sand as far as contractual basis, which is stated in this recommendation. But I will say that never stops the motion of the project being such a great thing for the community. The list that's there with whether it be bollards or painting, etc., because we're trying to have closure to the project in such a contractual arrangement, that is never going to stop that project advancing and getting all that other work done through whatever means it is, whether it be council, community clubs, community volunteers, or councillors painting. So I think it's fantastic. Looking forward to tomorrow's meeting, but been a brilliant thing. So my suggestion is we deal with the recommendation as it is, with your idea of a report on our meeting at the next meeting.
Yep, perfect.
As a separate issue, if that's...
And thank you, Mr Mayor, for your support.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
So, reply, Mr Mayor. I've lost sound.
It'll come through.
I can hear you, Paul.
Yeah.
Councillor Meagle, we missed you when you started our split. So
Yes. Sorry, Mr Mayor, I seem to have lost some sound, although I can sort of hear you. I don't know if you can hear me.
we can now, yeah. Yep. All
Okay.
good.
Yeah, just write a reply if I may.
For sure, Councillor Meagle.
Thank you. When this project was first brought to council back in the Corowa Shire Council, it was estimated to be costing $1.1 million, which was considered to be a major project at the time. And that council has agreed to fund not only stage 1, and echoing Councillor Whitechurch's comments that it's great the council's jumped on board to get completion of 3 stages, and also noticing the comments about going over budget. I think we've set a very generous budget here that council is working very diligently to try and get the project completed within that. And as the director noted, that there are still some uncertainty about the contributions that have been provided or pledged so far. I think that all needs to be solidified until we do have a final amount that we know what we can and cannot achieve. I agree that it's a magnificent project, fully supportive of it, but we need to keep within the budget that we've got. And I echo the words of the Mayor that this is just, if we get this part done, doesn't mean that that's the end of it and it'll never be added to in the future, given contributions from service clubs or other members of the community. So happy to support the recommendation as it stands. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Meagle. It's about finishing off this chapter and opening the next one. So any further comments on that one, councillors? If not, I'll put it. All in favour?
Aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried. Thank you.
Item 10.3 is the Jacob Hino tipper truck and dog hire invoice, which we had a couple of meetings ago, which I've done a bit more work on the report and added some bits and pieces in. Done a reasonable amount, as I said at the briefing, done a reasonable amount of research on resale value. Found a couple 2020 model just truck with tippers on them in Sydney, which were, one had 80,000 Ks, which was, they had a price of 320 on it. So I was reasonably happy that they're holding that price, and the vehicles we've got and what we've paid, I think that the justification that Hino has put forward, Jacob Hino has put forward has been thought through pretty well, and I did make some notes there. There's been a few extra bits and pieces put onto the vehicles we've now got that weren't on the original specs. So I again put forward the recommendation that we write off that amount and reduce the invoice from 186,480 to 93,652.
Thank you. We have a move to that recommendation, please, councillors. Moved by Councillor Whitechurch, seconded by Councillor Thomas. Any questions or comments, councillors? If not, I'll put it. All in favour?
Aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried. And that concludes your report, Steve. Thank you very much. We'll now move on to item number 11, notice and motion, questions with notice, no items. Reports from committees. We have no items there either. 13 reports from delegates. 13.1 verbal reports. Councillor Thomas, would you like to start?
Yeah, I would like to start. It's not so much a report from a meeting or a conversation I've had. It's just more about a flyer that we received in the mail. Mawela Bridge maintenance. We received these in the mail. A few of us spending a lot of time on the bridge because we're sitting because of border closures. This is not what you see. This is not what you see at all. I don't know where the camera is. That sign at the moment is a disgrace. It has been vandalised, and the writing is nearly ineligible. And I was just wondering if council could write to RMX and ask for a new sign, considering we're all spending so much time sitting on the bridge at the minute, and it is not a good look for New South Wales.
Thank you, Councillor Thomas. And if I could just add a second point to that, if they do that, could they put a sign that says Urana on the way out of Corowa so I can find my way home after council meeting?
I thought all roads led to
General manager could write, or
know its own
our
way.
director could write and get that rectified. That would be great. It's
Yep.
really false advertising.
Exactly right.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Councillor Thomas. Any more verbal reports, councillors? Councillor
If
Longmire.
I may, Mr Mayor, in regard to the AGM of the ELSA Group, Australian Livestock Sale Yards Association, was held since the last report I gave of the financials for that group. Yes, they're going forward in a worrying time. Certainly, as we've mentioned earlier about the opportunity for sheep not coming across to the Corowa Sale Yard. So, and if we reflect that, I've mentioned before that 30 to 40% of our yarding out here comes from Victoria. So this is of a big concern in the short term, because going forward with value per head of yard charges that comes into our budget process, it's something that we need to be very mindful of. And so once again, another reason to demonstrate to the Deputy Premier, if we can, that opportunity to say it is affecting not just people over in Victoria, but not wanting to be greedy in that reflection. Certainly, I think it's an awareness, but having said that, I've been able to, no one else wanted an opportunity to stand and be on the board again for 12 months. So as a council representative, I'm still there.
Excellent. That's great. Councillor Longmire, you've been doing a very good job with keeping us informed in the sale yards. Did any of those sheep get to Sydney or not?
I haven't heard. It will be a major news bulletin if that happens, I can assure you, and I'll have something to do with it. But anyway.
Excellent.
Checking in, I think.
Checking. Any further verbal reports there, councillors? Nothing? Okay.
Move to note.
Would someone like to move to note? Moved by councillor Wales, seconded by councillor Thomas. All in favour?
Aye.
Against, carried. Okay, the item number 14, correspondence requiring council action for information. 14.1, Murray Darling Association. So there's a MDA delegates report there, July 220 for tabling at council, and a copy's been included in our agendas. I'll just keep moving through unless anyone wants to make a comment. Number 14.2 is the Australian Local Government Association ALGA Local Roads Transport Congress, and there was a letter inviting council to attend that Congress, and possible attendance by council, and noting there is clash with the November 2020 ordinary council meeting. 14.3 was the Colombo Ski Club. That was a nice letter. It's always good for a council to get a letter back from one of their committees in relation to the new toilet block and shower block that we put out there. They were very grateful, and it's been a fantastic job. Councillor Wales.
I went past there some time ago. Wow, what a great little area there, man.
It is.
I didn't stop to use it, but it's fantastic. What a setup. I've been there for a long time. Well
Real-
done. It's good.
real gem, yeah.
Good results there.
Excellent. So then 14.4 is the Corridor Distilling Company. A letter dated on the 15th of July regarding the COVID-19 border closure impacts on business and tourism in the region, and a copy of that was included in the agenda. Mr. General Manager.
Thanks, Mr Mayor, and other councillors may comment, but just wanted to call out that one from Corridor Distilling Company Proprietary Limited, because it's not only about border closure impacts, it's more about, the letter's more about the negative messaging from the Premier especially, and been reinforced by her more recently, that was recommended, and probably still is in certain circles, not to travel to the border regions in New South Wales, and that's, I think that's unfairly affecting all the border businesses and communities right along, and there's no sort of line that's been drawn anywhere along there. So New South Wales is working hard to keep the state safe, and the border is the front line there behind us. But yeah, and Dean points out quite clearly that that's impacted their visitation, and you hear on the radio now tourism officers around Coolamon or Junee or anywhere where they're good on them, but you know they're saying that they're getting a great influx of tourists coming out of, not only out of Sydney, but anywhere up in regional New South Wales to look inland more, and they've got their canola trails and all these sort of tourism things they're taking advantage of, and their shops are operating COVID safe and working well, but so could all ours. And just to see that example there, and again, the Mayor will be taking that up with the Deputy Premier, that I think it was an unfair statement to say that don't travel anywhere to the border, and it also affects border people have been I'd say prejudiced by not even being accepted when they want a holiday further north. There's examples where people looked at the Albury postcode and said, oh, you can't travel up, which is totally ridiculous. So just wanted to highlight Dean's position there. He's made really clear in the letter, but it can get blurred with border closures. It's not a border closure issue, it's a messaging issue from the state.
And can I add to that, just before we finish on that one, that we have already mentioned that to ministers on one of our teleconferences, supporting the distillery's quotes. Thank you, Councillor Longley.
Yes, just to reinforce what the General Manager said, I've got a daughter who lives in Kiama, and she asked me the other day, can she travel to the border? Can she come home? And I said, yes. She said, well, no, we've been told we can't. And again, friends in Wagga saying the people in the hospitality industry have been told that they can't accept people from our postcodes down here in Wagga. And we've been told, I remember somebody saying we're not supposed to travel at 50 kilometres outside our bubble. And that was early days, and that's still a lot of people are still referring to that. And a lot of miscommunication.
Yeah, it's put a bad feel on our region down here, that's for sure.
Comment, Mr Mayor, please.
Yes, Councillor Mangle.
Just in support of the other councillors' comments, that I know there is one business in the Riverina that if their employees leave the Riverina, they are asked to have a COVID test before they return to work. if they come south.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of work to do there. Any further comments or questions, councillors? Councillor Longline.
If I may, there's been a premise speculated in regard to the restraining of the opportunity as a cross-border situation. And we noted the other day that our member, Justin Clancy, and Bill Tilley, member from Benandra, had a conference regarding, and they've actually got a joint paper out, which I thought was pretty good. And what I commenced with in my little go here is the fact that it's been mooted about restraint between states, and that comes under Section 92 of the Constitution. Now, I'm trying to find out whether or not the health orders are above the opportunity of a Constitution precedent. I don't know. Is that something that we should also inquire with the Deputy Premier, Mr. General Manager?
Oh, I think the council can make those sort of inquiries. I think it might have been Barnaby Joyce there several months ago said that the federation concept, which ironically was initiated here in Cora with meetings, was
correct.
Never about it was about the opposite of that. It was about removing the barriers and costs to get across the bridge and all those things. And as he said, it's gone a long way forward. Federation white paper came out probably 3, 4, could be 5 years ago now, where I know it's a big thing for trying to move those machines of government, but there's certainly this just highlights it, whether it's water, health, train track sizes, and now when you have these sort of pandemics, bushfires, it highlights the absolute debacle that we've got with the state, the legislation changes. So certainly, I'm sure our Deputy Premier is quite openly speaking on a lot of things. I'm sure that's something that could be raised as well.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Councillor Longmire.
If I may, in genuine earnesty, many years ago, when my father died, we had a problem of paying a probate, and in that regard, you might wonder what the relativity is of the argument. But if we hadn't been able to grow wheat and sell it on what was called at that time the black market, which was governed under the Section 92 of the Constitution, free trade between states, our farm, which is 100 years old, wouldn't be there today. It wasn't the Australian Wheat Board that saved our farm. It was the Constitution, Section 92.
Thank you for sharing that, Councillor Longmire. Any further comments there, councillors? Councillor Longley, did you?
No.
Okay, well, councillors, I'll move from items 14.1 to 14.4 in the block. Can I have someone to move, please? Moved by Councillor Longmire, seconded by Councillor Whitechurch. All in favour?
Aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried. There be no confidential items, but I just wanted to update council with the Tim Fisher Memorial. Had a couple of weeks ago some conversations with Tim's wife Judy. At that stage with the COVID, it was almost absolutely impossible for any family members to attend. So unfortunately, because of the situation, we cancelled. Bearing in mind, I told Judy that I didn't think it'll take away from the event having it at a later date where we can all get together and enjoy it together. And I'm still very hopeful that that the governor will still attend as planned, but we can show the governor right throughout all the areas of our shire in a COVID-safe environment. So hopefully that won't be too far down the track, but we'll once we get some clearances, we'll move on with that and a lot of other events as well. So just to keep you informed what's going on there, councillors. If there be nothing more, I declare the meeting closed. Thank you.
Thank you all.